An emotional fifth round was topped off with Topi Korteniemi returning to the top step of the podium. While that brought him back to the points lead, it is a tenuous grasp. Nobody seems able to take anything for granted this season, so let's see what the Nürburgring holds in store as we get ready to watch Round 6 of the Lotus 49 Grand Prix Legends Series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Jake Sperry. Behind the scenes is our director, Robert O'Brien, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. While the Nordschleife is perhaps the more appropriate playground for this car, the GP course has had its share of the Legends crew cycle its way around. Let's head to our track guide to see what it entails. Welcome to the Nürburgring. Often overshadowed by its older, bigger brother, the Nordschleife, the Grand Prix course has actually accrued quite a bit of history itself. This modern circuit was built in the early 80s as a replacement for the lesser-known Southern Loop. And while it was updated and extended in 2002, it stayed roughly 3 miles in length throughout its history. However, the addition of the Mercedes Arena brought about a total of 6 different layouts to choose from, with the longest including 16 turns. Though not as fearsome as the Ring, it's technically challenging and carries its own fair share of elevation change. Plus, the types of corners come in a wide variety, ranging from the heavy braking into the sharp hairpin of the first turn, to the swift Schumacher S, which is still not quite flat out in a lot of modern cars. Passing can sometimes come at a premium, and drivers are often forced to get creative if they find themselves stuck behind a competitor. But the difficulty that elicits mistakes means that patience can pay off for those who stay diligent. While Formula One raced here on and off for a few decades, it now mainly hosts GT and touring car racing, along with some lower-tier open-wheel series. In the end, race fans certainly shouldn't overlook the importance of this German circuit. While it may not carry the fame of its counterpart, it holds up well and helps keep this worldwide phenomenon relevant to modern racing. Well, Jake, it's a more modern track with a bit of a vintage car. How are we expecting things to handle out there?
This is the sort of track where you've got this modern twist and a car that didn't necessarily race in this iteration of the format. This is the sort of track where you need patience around this place. This track does get narrow through the second sector of the lap when you fall down the hill, down towards the Dunlop hairpin, down the Mullenbacher Schleife section of the track. And the opportunities to go and overtake are made a little bit more difficult by the fact that we're using the best wet style chicane. That means that you've got a slightly more open style chicane at the end of the lap. And because of that, you don't necessarily have that opportunity to brake as hard to go and get the jump on your opponent. That being said, there's still some great chances out there. Into turn number 1 is always going to be an opportunity to go and make something happen. 16 turns, 5.15 kilometers, 3.2 miles. Anything's possible in Lotus 49s. We've seen it all the time in Grand Prix Legends.
No doubt about that. And, well, as we take a look at the championship, well, as I mentioned, Topi Korteniemi back up to the top spot ahead of Togo Hisada with his victory. He's the only one that's had 2 victories so far this season, Topi. Sebastian Tixier, Roman Pawlowski, and Laust Olsen round out the top 5 with a pretty close fight there for third between Roman and Sebastian. We also have an F2 championship. How are the amateurs doing?
Well, it's Jorge Nieva who is up on top at the moment, 155 points to the good, but it is very close here as we head towards the halfway stage. Bill Wright giving it a really hot go, 8 points back. Randy Ho and Matthew Maudsley there, 17 and 19 points respectively. And finally, Jeff Saunders there in 5th position. I'd say amateurs right now are as close as it could possibly get.
Then when we hop over to the Nations Cup, Finland, of course, a victory is going to help them stretch away, but it's Germany currently in 2nd place. And look at that. It is a tie for 3rd, Japan and the United Kingdom. The United States slips off to a bit of a surprise. Singapore jumps into the top 5, keeping it very closely bound in that 3rd, 4th, and 5th position as well. You can't really count out Germany. They're only 2 points ahead of that tie as well. But we might have viewers who have not tuned in to this series before. Jake, how is this one going to go?
Well, it looks pretty simple on paper. It's an 18-lap race straight up around this place today, and it's an open setup. So what does that mean for someone who's jumping into this series for the very first time? You might need to ask a friend, hey, do you have a setup? Do you know how to set up this very, very difficult machine for competition today? You don't have a spare car today. It is as simple as this. You break it, you bought it, and you're going to have to pay for it in the virtual sense of you're going to pay in iRating and you're going to pay in safety rating today. If this one does not go your way, this is an open wheel machine, and with those wheels so exposed and so chunky as they are, Joe, it is very easy to make contact and end up flying.
Yeah, everybody's got to tiptoe around at the start, especially in that finicky little Mercedes arena. Before we get to the racing, make sure and check out the Majors Garage, home of free Baseline Plus setups. Get help from any of the garage coaches 24/7. Sign up now for awesome, affordable monthly subscriptions, telemetry, coaching, and more at majorsgarage.com. Or use our special discount code, Majors GSRC, for 10% off. We have a link in the description below that directly applies our special offer. Right now, as we take a look at the qualifying, we still don't have anybody with a time in, unfortunately. Hopefully they can get back around in time to set both laps, because they've only got about 5 minutes left. And at least conditions are pretty good. It's about 81 Fahrenheit and seems fairly cloudy. It's only partly cloudy out there, but ever since we've hopped in here, Jake, it's been a little bit dark.
It has been a bit dark, but I wouldn't say that's the end of the world. We're in ideal conditions. We go on board with Martin Gramberg here, making the brakes in the number 2 machine into the carousel-esque Inspire corner here, where there's a million different lines you can take. And this is where we're going to start seeing drivers really push to the limits here. How quick can you go through the Schumacher S? And how quickly can you go without unsettling the car? You don't have natural downforce to help you. It's all down to how much throttle can you put in the car. And you can really see how this car is sliding about the circuit. This is going to be a tough challenge, and this is probably one of the toughest cars out there in the service to go and master in comparison to what people normally drive, which is GT3s and Porsches.
Indeed, and like you said, slides a lot, not a lot of grip. And you can see, even though it is the faster chicane, they have a long braking zone, so passes could still be seen into there, but it will certainly be tough. Coming around the final hairpin, the number 2 machine, let's see what he's got. The line is early in this version, and it's a 1:54.4. That's going to be the first time set. Everybody else now has to try and match that. Vascalampi comes within 200ths of him, but is not able to take the pole away. Still, he sits on the front row, at least provisionally.
At least provisionally, that would be good. There is the World of Conducci driver, Robert Plumley, has a very, I would say, fantastic following over on Twitch as he makes that run through the chicane and tries to get his line sorted through that final corner, the Hyundai N-curve, and onto the front stretch once again, and looking for a good lap here, just to put something solid on the board. It's a 56.1, that's not bad at all. It's good enough at the moment, I would say, for 11th place, which is exactly what you need. And there is Ove Trengerate, someone who doesn't need any introduction when it comes to classic vehicles. He is probably the most recognizable name, Joe, when it comes to these sorts of series.
He shows up here in the 49s, in the Camel Series, and the Lotus 79s as well. But we're starting to see more and more drivers kind of do the same, where they will dance across all 3, or at least 2 of the 3, which makes sense, as a love of one tends to lead to a love of the other. Matt right into 7th, waiting for guys like Laust Olsen, who we saw there on our scoring sheet, up towards the top end, and the number 8 car, it still needs to set his first time. He should have enough time for both, it looks like, with about 2.5 minutes left, but he can't dilly-dally. He comes across, and it's going to be a 56.1. That will only put him into 12th. Still, that's better than last.
Certainly is, and it's quite refreshing to hear someone like you, Joe, say dilly-dally. I mean, you're getting well into the spirit with this. Martin Gramberg making his run over, and that is a much better time. It's a 54.1. He gives himself another 0.3 of a second's worth of buffer, but were it not for Vascalampi, who's just put himself a 10th clear, and that is a fantastic time from the 5. There is the driver, Sebastian Tixier, then, as he is second fastest there with a 54 flat of his own. And I do have to give credit to Singapore Sim Racing, because they've got some incredible drivers over there, Joe. They don't only have Sebastian Tixier, they've got Riku Alatalo and Marcus Lenderman.
That's a fair point. Trangray, by the way, got himself up into 4th with that latest lap, so a vast improvement for him. We're down to the last of them here with just about a minute to go. Still is some time. I see Matt Wright coming around. He sits in 12th. Andre Brunner will follow him, and Rolly Wallbank still coming along. Here comes the Australian out of the final hairpin and onto the front stretch. Can he put himself any higher than row 6? A 55.7 stays a 55.7. That's not an improvement.
Nope, it certainly isn't. It was 9/10 off the pace, but drivers use qualifying for various different reasons, as Rolly Wallbank will make his run over. That is a 57.7 by his standing, so he is able to jump up to 26th position with that time. And here again, Laust Olsen, who definitely needs a lap. We've seen all of the shuffling so far in qualifying has dropped him back down to 15th position. That's not where he wants to be in such a strong field as this. Wants to make that charge over towards the line in the final half a minute. That's a 55.6. It's good enough for P12. Joe, I tell you what, this could go any one of about 10 different ways, because this track has the ability to put a lot of shocks on the board.
Absolutely. Macias just moved himself into 7th, but he's going to be our last driver able to set a time. So our grid is now set. And it is Teemu Vascalampi who puts it on the pole. No wonder those Finns hold the Cup of Nations lead right now. Sebastian Tixier in 2nd with Martin Granberg starting from P3. And as I mentioned, Trangrade onto row 2. Jorge Nieva, how's that for an AM driver? F2 up to 5th. And then Willy Hallman starts from 6th. Sergio Macias, the number 1's on his car, but only good enough for 7th in the qualifying. Fabian Don will start from 8th, followed by John Olsen in 9th and Billy Bob Wright in 10th.
Janne Lehmann then will go from 11th position with Laust Olsen in 12th, making it a Scandinavian affair on row 6. Row 7 sees Matt Wright and Robert Plumley together on there, with Miro Hrajki in 15th position and Chris Murakami, maybe surprisingly down the order there, in 16th place. Bruce Nelson goes from 17th alongside Nolan Smith. Row 10 will see Kevin Verbruggen and Randy Ho making up that top 20.
Marco Salgado in 21st will have Colton Conover to his outside. Gary Ho starts 23rd. From there, you've got Matthew Maudsley in 24th, Michael Grissinger in 25th, and Rolly Wallbank in 26th. Glenn Becker, Eugenio Massa, Herbert Prinz, Andre Bruno, Steve O'Malley, and Andre Juteau round out a 32-car field in which 29 of the 30 managed to get a time in onto the board. We're just waiting for a couple cars to grid up here, and then we are ready to go for the halfway point here in the Lotus 49 Grand Prix Legends Series. As we mentioned earlier, pretty good conditions, and the sun has started to come out now here in the Eifel Mountains. Glad to see we got a beautiful scene to at least join these beautiful cars out on the track. And I'm not seeing any gaps from our picture here, so I think we are ready to go. And indeed, the lights will come up as the engines start to rev. And the green flag is out off the line. Vascalampi looks pretty decent. In fact, the top runners are all about dead even as they accelerate away. But what about into the very, very tight first corner, the Haug hook leading the drivers into the Mercedes arena. I'm not seeing any tangles so far, despite some 3 wide moments and a little bit of a puff of smoke, but otherwise we're good.
It's an impressive start from everybody as they fall into line and go through the arena section. A few 2 wides here and there, especially they can see just in the back of shot, John Olsen is there fighting with Laust Olsen. So the 2 Olsens with 2 different spellings of Olsens then. In the end, it is John Olsen who wins up ahead. And now look at this. That's Billy Bob Wright trying to search down the inside, down the hill, exiting the first sector. And it can so easily go wrong. And just like that, it does.
Oh, wow, that was a quick commentator's curse. Didn't even get the sentence out, and the 16 gets turned around. So Billy Bob Wright goes to the very end of the field, but thankfully looks like minimal damage on both cars, at least for now. Vascalapi continues to lead with Tixier in second as they hit the Schumacher S behind them. A big slide in the background for Trangerade. He manages to hold on to it somehow in a side-by-side between Hallman and Nieva.
Absolutely, and that is the scariest point of the circuit to have a slide at, because you are fully committed through that corner. You cannot make sure that you are sliding around through that section. You have to be pinpoint. And now you can see Sergio Macias then trying to really make some progress here. Started 7th, is 7th, so hasn't really done too much, but settling into the rhythm here of the early stages of this race. As we say that, he goes skittling across the chicane. God, I'm 2 for 2 today. This is not a good sign.
In the meantime, Conover and Ho also had a coming together down in the Michelin. So it's been a little sloppy for some drivers, but we come back to Laust Olsen once again, trying to fight with Macias.
Someone spun just out of the final corner there in the background, a shot, and they can see it's the number 14 machine in trouble, Bruce Nelson.
Ooh, and once again, having to wait patiently for everybody to clear before he can get going. I can tell you that Macias stayed ahead of Laus Olsen down into the first turn. As we hop on board, watching through the Mercedes Arena, very technical part of the track. And Matt Wright seeing if he can do anything to get anything away from Miro Hraski. It's a train of cars in front of him still.
Absolutely, the train goes all the way to Janne Lehmann, who is holding on to 11th position at the moment. And this is where patience is very much needed. This isn't like your modern Formula One, for example, where you've got the aids of the drag reduction system or an attack mode to help you. No, you're relying on the natural aspiration of that engine and making sure that you are in position using any slipstream that's available to go and make the passes. You can see it's a great run out of the exit from Robert Plumley. He's not going to be able to make the move here through this left and right, but if he gets a good enough run through the Schumacher S, he has a chance at the Ravenel corner, this next left-hander out on track. And if he's got a good enough run, he just doesn't have enough, then he might have had that chance. But this is a really difficult circuit. This is the sort of track as well, Joe, that you feel like every straight's about 50 meters too short to make a pass.
Absolutely, especially in these cars, which don't take corners very fast in the first place. And look at them just in a line coming up to the final chicane. And Plumley again trying to set him up, but he's just not close enough. He's going to stay in line. And they got company. Here comes Chris Murakami with a great exit. And same thing with Plumley. Sends it up the inside. And Lehman nearly makes contact with Murakami because that, but everybody gets out the other side.
And this is the key around the Nürburgring. You have to make committed moves. If you're going to put a half effort in to stick one down the inside, you can lose 2 seconds so very quickly. So you've got to be alert on the brakes, getting a move done. And if you're committed to going down the inside, you are committed there for the move. You cannot back out of those sorts of attempts. Great move by Robert Plumley. He moves himself up back into his car number. He's +3.
The background almost saw Murakami and Hraski make contact, and they did now. Oh, and they're going to join Matt Wright on another one getting into it. That's 4 cars in a row. Randy Huff, unfortunately, facing the wrong way. That just cascaded down the order.
Murakami's got a headache now, and you can tell they're going through. This is what makes it difficult. Club Northwest making the drive through the big left-hander, trying to get something sorted. And this is what makes it so easy to happen. You try and lunge for the inside, it's not there, and ultimately it's so difficult to gauge how much front end you've got on your car. You're so low down in these machines, they can see the spin happening, and then it's a chain reaction because the accident happens on the apex. Everyone tries to get out of the way, and there's your headache right there on the head of Chris Murakami.
Ugh. And Huff looks severely damaged as he's gotten going, but he is continuing to fall down the order. Where did Murakami wind up? He's 23rd as well, so the number 6 is going to... Oh, and it looks like the suspension has broken somebody off. That's Conover. This is through the Schumacher. It's a weird place to have an accident,
Joe.
It is. And normally you see drivers off on the outside. He somehow spun it to the inside of the corner. That was bizarre.
Well, can see here as well just how broken the steering is as Tixier sets another fastest lap, and he continues to challenge Vascalampi for the race lead. But Murakami, you can see, definitely crabbing, and this is what makes it difficult as well with these machines. Is it's very easy for these cars to brake, but it's also very difficult to bring these cars back into the pits. Once the suspension's damaged, effectively, it's like trying to steer with a block of cheese as a steering wheel.
I'm curious what that experience feels like. As we mentioned, the leaders are separated by less than a second from first to fourth. And that's Vascalampi, Tixier, Granberg, and Trangrade all in a line. Tixier keeping this one tight, keeping Vascalampi honest. But it's early days in this race, and Vascalampi knows how to hold these top spots.
Certainly does, and this has been a race for Teemu Vascalampi where he's been able to settle down for the first 3.5 laps, coming back up the circuit now through the Schumacher S. You can see it's a lot more committal from Vascalampi here going through that S section. He's able to take more of these curbs, and these curbs are really difficult. They're not your natural style curbs which are open and expansive. You can go and attack. These are higher base curbs, not as high as what's on the Nordschleife, but they're still high base curbs. It's very easy to get your car effectively Tony Hawking on some of these as you go through, and you've got to be so careful about that. These cars are low down to the ground, and if you bottom out over one of these curbs, you can very easily throw yourself offline.
Indeed. I always found the Schumacher S had really punishing curbs, especially for such a fast series of corners, and coming back onto the main straight. Not a good enough exit for Tixier to attack this time, but he's sticking with it. We'll keep watching this to see how this unfolds. And interesting to note, I'm noticing that Ove Trangrade still lacks a best lap, which to me says he has yet to set a clean one. He's racking up those incident points. He's got to watch out, because we do have enough laps that if he does it one each lap, he's going to get a drive-through penalty.
Yep, 17 instant points gives you a drive-through penalty, 25 instant points. Well, you can say goodbye to your race. And the last thing you want to be doing here around a track like this is throwing away your instant points, meaning that you have to drive a little bit more restrictive, a little bit more mechanically through some of these corners, and that will cost you time between now and the end. And just as we say that, we didn't quite catch on the back of a shot. Trangrade has very nearly looped the car around through turn number 5 out there on track. He's done so well to keep it together, but this is the key. He's trying to stay with this leading trio up here at the front, and they're just starting to gap him right now. This is coming along in the same reality where Tixier is pretty much harassing the back of Vascalampi quite hard at this point in time.
Absolutely, they're pulling away. In fact, I'd say they're dropping Granberg as well, and Tixier's on it as the car fishtails coming out of the Schumacher S. And it's starting to get a few mistakes out of Vascalampi. A big slide through the left-hander, allowing Sebastian to get within a car length at times. Still not close enough. I don't think we're going to see one into the chicane.
No, I'm pretty sure that it's going to be very tough. You always have to question if you've got brakes going into this section of road, and you hope that you have them as you slow down. And now trying to put the power back onto the exit here. Hyundai N-Curve comes along once again. It's all about drive out to the exit. Now, you can notice here that it's a little bit more of an open line onto the entry and mid part of the corner from Tixier. He's trying to open up the exit as much as he possibly can. For the first time, Vascalampi's going to have to defend here in towards turn number 1. He covers the line off going into the Mercedes-Benz arena. Down the hill, it's so deceptive as well, actually, Joe, going through turn number 1. You effectively drop off the face of a cliff if you're right up next to that exit or that entry curb on the right-hand side. Reminds me very much of turn 2 at Malaysia.
Yeah, the way that it drops always caught me off guard. Certainly loves to upset the car. As we watch that 7 stay within reaching distance of Teemu Vascalampi, but not within attacking distance, at least for now. And it looks to me like maybe Trangrade has recollected himself, and as soon as I say that, it goes a little wide and drops right back off. He doesn't like this portion, maybe. It seems like the car always loses a little time through there.
Well, it's the most aggressive point on the track, Joe, in terms of elevation, as we take a look at the Global Sim Racing Channel replay here of Ove Trangrade going through this section. He doesn't get the car planted into the corner. You can see the car dipping as he goes down in. That indicates that he's using the brakes. The car really does pitch as you hit the brakes in this machine. And one of the keys that you're seeing right now is that Ove Trengrade isn't settled going through that left. And when he's going from a position of flat to a position of falling downhill, he hasn't got that transfer. He needs to dial his braking marker back by about 5 meters, and he should be able to hit the apex.
Always want to avoid overdriving the car. That's the problem I've always had myself, is we once again come back to the chicane. Tixier even closer this time. Starting to seem like as the race goes on, Sebastian's car is coming alive, and now he's starting to make moves on him. It wasn't a real attempt, but he certainly showed his nose in the mirrors, and he is much closer. An immediate defensive move from Vascalampi, but the door is open enough that he gets his wheels inside. We're going to go side by side into the Haug hook, but who is braver onto the brakes? Could be pinched down. Sebastian does not have this done, and he's got to get by before we swing back into the Mercedes arena, but wheel spin for Vascalampi scuppers him, and Sebastian is your new leader.
Vascalampi did everything right on the outside. He had to try and take that line. You've got a lot more grip on that outside as you go through turn 2 because you don't have the track falling away from you. The only issue is he put too much in on the throttle. It was very brave there as well from Tixier. He had to be aggressive into that final corner, almost took the rear gearbox completely out as if you had a front gearbox in this car, but now here comes the charge. You can see down the inside, and he just had to make sure that he was committed there at the brakes and committed into the turn. He gave a lot of room, a lot of space. You can just see just a little bit too aggressive. It's not much in these machines, but it's enough.
Great stuff from the pair of them, and aggressive as well from Vascalampi, pinching him all the way down to the inside until they got to the braking zone. Some real trust between them. But look at this. I think this has pulled the cork out of the bottle. Tixier's already got a 0.6 of a second gap over the Finn.
Well, I believe that Tixier just wants to build, and he is absolutely flying. He has the fastest lap in this race so far, and the driver from Singapore is absolutely trying to break away at this point. You can really argue that Vascalampi did well to qualify the car on pole position, but there is a difference between how you drive in a qualifying session and how you drive in a race session. You can see it really from the way that they're driving. It's very much more of a clinch style from Vascalampi. He's very much trying to make sure that he's making each corner and then dealing with the consequences as he gets there. It feels more natural at the moment from Tixier. That's why he's building the gap, and that's why Granberg's coming back into this one in P3.
That could be interesting. Could Vascalampi even fall out of second? If we head back to 13th position, though, Nolan Smith, who we often see climb through the field, has got some pressure from behind. Matt Wright is there, and Marco Salgado putting immense pressure on him.
Yeah, Marco Antonio Lopez then really showing what he's capable of doing here as the Iberian looks to try and really make that chase in towards turn number 1 once again. And you really get an interesting sense of what makes this track difficult into turn 1. It's not the case that the corner itself is difficult, but it's also the entry that really does shock a lot of people. I don't know many circuits, Joe, that actively close from 5 lanes down to 3 lanes coming in towards a corner. It's like very much that merge that you get when you're going onto one of the freeways.
Indeed, and sliding wide once again. Nolan Smith still within the boundaries, but he's dealing with a lot here, and he has climbed up from 18th, so 5-place gain for Nolan Smith. And we're always commenting on the fact that he doesn't have the highest of iRating, but he usually has great speed. And I'm wondering at what point will that number 25 on his car start to tip down a little bit as they all tip their noses down towards the pavement, braking hard into the Dunlop hairpin. Still nobody able to try and take advantage quite yet, but Matt Wright sticking with it.
Certainly is. Nolan Smith does have an unenviable task with the number 25 on his car. He should gain a fair bit of iRating. I'd say about a 20 or 30 if he can keep it in this position, maybe gain a couple more places between now and the end of this race. But we're really in a section of this race where everyone's trying to settle down into a rhythm. They've all got their battles in front that they're trying to keep with. And for example, you've got the front 4 in a train. Then you've got the next 4 in a train as well. Holman, Nieva, Dana, and Olsen. As we just say that, Vascalampi sets the fastest lap of the race, a 54.1. I think he may have heard us when we said that he's struggling a little bit. And he's decided, no, I've got the fastest lap of the race. You can't say I'm struggling.
It's all under control. No need to worry. No need to panic. Is back onto the front stretch once again. And pulling along his fellow rivals, Nolan Smith sees Wright and Salgado in the mirrors, but I don't think we're going to see any moves here into the first corner. They're a little too far back, but even still, despite that, Nolan was very defensive there.
And this is some of the issues that you get when you're trying to go out there and you're trying to race. People have their own lines as they go through into certain sections of track. But, you know, at that point in time, are you really going to be seeing a move down the inside to take that position away? Some of that craft is always going to be a bit of, what if this happens, what if that happens? It's what you see with drivers with lower iRating. It's something I like to call Indiana Jones and Defender of the Lost Corner.
Thankfully, he didn't lose his grasp on it this time. But once again, a bit of a defensive move, this time in a very unusual spot there through Ford. Down the hill they go. And Matt Wright still too far away, but if we keep seeing defenses like that, he should be able to gain time. So Nolan Smith shouldn't be that quick, trying to take shallow lines into so many corner entries. And you got to wonder at what point does Marco start to get involved as well.
Well, Marco's in the right position here, can just sit and wait because the move's soon about to come. Wright gets a monstrous run there up the Schumacher S, but no chance into the Ravenel corner here. This left-hander just has to be patient, just has to wait for that opportunity again. Nolan Smith, heavy defense there through the right. You're not really going to make a move there. You just open it up. Tixier responds with a fastest lap of 54 dead as he goes through, and it can't be as dead as that. Look at this, 2 tires in the grass trying to find an angle to get through. No chance of that one working, but it shows you how hard you're pushing to try and get a move for 13th position in this race.
Wright is hanging it all out on the line now, and as they come around the final hairpin, this is a good exit. The car squirms a little bit, but I think he might have something if he's daring, which from what we saw through the kink, he is. And he's going to have to go the long way around, though, as Nolan Smith is going to defend once again. Could we see a cutback? No, he's at the apex. Nolan just going to deny him that. So Matt Wright once again back into line.
Back into line, but this is a really good battle down the order. So we have seen a lot for a couple of laps here. Chances have been opening up, and it just hasn't quite materialized yet, but you just feel that it's on the cusp. A couple more corners where it's slightly wrong. We could see some side-by-side action. I do want to give some credit, though, to the battle going on for 5th. Ville Hallman and Jorge Nieva have been doing really well. They've been keeping in line for about the last 5 or 6 laps, and they've got the 12 and the 18 on their cars, which means that they are about in a field today of 31, somewhere around the mid-pack. They should be back down in the mid-pack. They're racing 5th and 6th and driving amazingly right now.
Just punching above the belt a little bit as Hallman tries to keep Nieva from getting more of his F2 points. And again, this is from overall finishing position that they score those points.
Traegerade actually went around, sorry.
You're right. He's now 5-6 seconds behind. Where did this happen?
Ravenel. It was through Ravenel. He was on the back of the group. He was pushing hard to stay with the group, Joe, and he's just looped the back end around.
This is all on his own. Not sure if we'll get the replay. We'll try for it. Here it is. And he didn't lose a position. Thankfully, they built up such a gap. There's off the Schumacher S. Nope, they're coming into the Schumacher S, excuse me. And it's this next left-hander that you should see the car just break away from him.
And Sebastian Tixier, you're going to see it right now. He gets in on the curb. He's losing the back end already coming into the corner. And there you can see a whole lot of smoke. He's able to really lock up those tyres to make sure he's got through. You've got a lot of tread on those, so you'll be all right, even if you leave a flat spot or two. But this is the thing. Tixier set a 43.8 on that lap as he went through and spun around. Traegerade, I think, was really pushing to stay with that group.
Oh, man, you are right. I'm looking at that front group now, and look at the distance between them as they put another car lap down. That is Juteau trying to stay off to the side and let them through. Tixier's got the afterburners on now. Vascalapi can't seem to hang, and Granberg, well, he's just a passenger at this point. Fortunately, it did seem to catch Traegerade out on top of things. We're less than 10 laps left to go, so we're past the halfway point, and drivers have got to put everything in it to try and put themselves in a comfortable position for the checkered flag.
Certainly do, and this is where you start making things up. A 53.8 here is going through, so if you've got time and you've got everything to work on. You've got to really push. But if you are just sitting there, and it might have been for Tixier, he's just been sitting, watching the opening laps, going, this has been solid, I'm in the lead, but I need to kick on. It's around this halfway stage to two-thirds stage of the race where you've got to make your intentions known. If you want to go and win the race, you've got to stay within a second. If you want to go and gain a position, now's the time where you get up on the back. And it goes all the way down at the moment. I'm looking at the battle between John Olsen and Fabian Dana right now, because this is the sort of battle which really epitomizes this. You've got to make sure that you're in range and you're making your intention known. John Olsen's intention is, I want 7th place.
Coming down into the first corner, we could see Olsen go by Dana, but no, he is not going to show his nose to the inside. By the way, to give you an idea of the pace that Tixier is running, his best lap is now 0.2 quicker than his qualifying lap. He's flying.
Well, sometimes when you have it, you just have it, and you get into a rhythm, you get yourself into the thrill of a race, and you can just go absolutely on it, and that is what you sort of see right now with Tixier and the way he's going. This has been a good scrap from John Olsen. These two drivers, Olsen and Dunn, are 3 and 4, I would say some of the most revered and respected. And look at those two different lines go through that section. You can see how tight John Olsen was as he was trying to keep himself with minimal movement down the hill to give himself the maximum amount of attack going through turn number 6 and over down the hill towards the Dunlop curve.
By the way, if Tixier manages to win, it'll be his first this season. I think it might be his first in the series. And he'll be the 5th different winner out of 6 rounds. It has been just a lottery out there of winners.
And that's what you love about series. The more winners that you have, the more competitive it is up at the very top of the field, the more likely it is you're going to have an entertaining season. I always remember, Joe, that 2012 Formula 1 season that had, I believe, 7 different winners in the first 8 races. And that sort of ability to go out and have competition like this is what makes iRacing so great, is because you know that, yes, you may have a better setup than someone else, for example, but the playing field is exactly level, every car to every other car.
Exactly. It's all down to the skill and the knowledge. Can you utilize it? As we come onto the front stretch, and once again, Fabian just flustering John Olsen, not allowing him to have any sort of attempt at getting that 7th place away. He's going to try and open up the corner as that number 3 car cuts back and is much tighter down to the apex, but still nothing doing.
Oh, that's an off in the background there. Not quite sure who that was. That was the lap traffic of Juteau, just letting everyone go through. A very dramatic way to do it, because he nearly clattered into the back of Laust Olsen under brakes, who was just alert enough to open up the steering and let him go through on the inside.
We've seen Juteau over in the Camel Series, but he's made his way here to the Grand Prix Legends. And I think he missed his brake marker. Yeah, Laust Olsen, thankfully, saw that one coming, and the 30 just took to the escape road and eventually is turned back around. He's sitting 28th, and he's not the last car running, actually. Murakami, Haraski, and Huff had to take repairs. They're back out there, but we've lost Steve O'Malley, who has retired for the race.
Certainly has done. And now look at this battle going on. Suddenly, you got Sergio Macias here in the number 1 machine, just jumping onto the back. I'm surprised to see him 20 seconds off of the race lead right now, but he knows that this may not be his circuit, but he gets a really nice attack. And you're seeing just how shallow Olsen is off of the exits, which is really surprising to see. It tells me he's not carrying all the speed that he maybe could do through some of these corners, and he's just trying to keep it away from some of these markers and some of these lines, keep maybe the off-track instant points out of play today.
Down into the chicane, Macias still on the gearbox of the number 3. And we're down to 4 laps to go, 5 laps to go currently for our drivers, but Macias does not get a good exit, and John starts to pull away from him once again. The opportunities are running out. And Sergio, despite a very high I rating, 6,000 plus for him, still needs to get a handle on this car. Such a unique vehicle. Definitely, when we talk about specialist cars here on the service, Jake, I think this one is towards the top of the list.
Absolutely, and some specialists really do have high I ratings. To put it into example, if you are around 8,500 I rating, you'd probably be in the top 100 in the world in terms of I rating overall. So that's the incentive, and you have to do it race on race, and the margins of points gain.
Train grade had it off.
Train grade, you're absolutely right there, Joe. He has absolutely fallen back, and he's now behind Holman. He's had another moment.
This time going too deep into Valvoline sent him off. Sorry, saw him dropping down the order. That is a major moment for one of the major players here in the Grand Prix Legends Series. And Holman just sneaks by, and Nieva tries to see if he can get the position away from him, but just in time, Train Grade returns to the track.
Two of those cones there on Train Grade spin. They need some CPR a la Oklahoma at this point in time, like the Chili Bowl. But you'd say at this point in time, that is being threatened all race long for Ove Train Grade. He has really hated that corner going down the hill ever so slightly. And finally, it bites him at a time that costs him a position or two.
Yeah, we haven't talked about that. There is a fair bit of elevation change at this track, and it's a car that has practically zero downforce, so it is all down to the mechanical grip and how you take it over the bumps. But up at the front, there haven't been too many bumps for Tixier quite yet. He is down to 4 laps to go now, with about a 1.1 second gap to Teemu Vaskilampi. Teemu's keeping him honest. He's allowed him through, and I'm sure he's kicking himself for that. But if we get one mistake out of Sebastian, this battle could be back on.
I'll tell you what, this is a tough battle. It doesn't look like it right now here, Joe, but you consider that they're both running the fastest laps they have done in this race here, and they are trying to set purple lap after purple lap to try and keep each other at bay and out of range. This is tough for Tixier and Vaskilampi. Vaskilampi is throwing the legitimate kitchen sink at Tixier here, and Tixier's just standing there seeing what is going on and says, come and have a go if you think you're fast enough.
Yeah, that last time by, Vaskilampi cut it down to a 153.704. They've been trading fastest laps. Teemu has been struggling keeping it within the bounds. A couple of his quickest laps got deleted due to off tracks, and I think that might have been one right there for Teemu that we witnessed. And Tixier is able to pull away because of that. It's up to 1.3 seconds. He needs more mistakes like that.
Certainly make life easier. 1.3, you'd feel slightly more comfortable in this scenario. And I'll tell you what, Tixier has a lot of experience with these style of machines. They're very tough. You need to be very controlled with it. And Tixier is an avid lover of the V8 supercars, Joe. That's what gives him that control of the rear that maybe he wouldn't have if he didn't race that sort of series, and gives him so much of an advantage when it comes to this. You look at a car like this, and I would probably say if you can master the V8, you can master anything. This is probably the toughest car to master, and that heritage, when you look at the three in a real fight, Olsen, Macias, and Dana, all there, I'd say probably you need to master how much grip you can get in the rear end, and that car is probably one of the best to master it in.
It's funny that you bring that up, because I've always said that the supercars are actually harder than the 49 to me. But as we come down into the corner, almost pushing him around, as John Olsen really wants that spot off of Fabian, but he is not able to get it away yet. If he gets any closer than that, he should be able to get a nose in.
Well, this is the issue that you've got if you're John Olsen. I like to call it Schrodinger's overtake. You have to attack, but you also have to defend at the same time, and therefore you're in two states of reality as you go and race. Do you focus on the car in front in Fabian Dana, or do you focus on the car behind in Sergio Macias? Down the hill they go with 2 3/4 laps to go in their race right now, down in towards this very tough right-hander, all about putting the power down as early as you possibly dare. It's so easy to spin the car off the exit of that curb, but it's, again, not quite in position to make it happen. You've got to wait for the opportunity to strike. Oh no.
And is that Tixier off? It is! Tixier is off, and Vaskilampi's back through. Granberg goes by, but with the spin from Trangarade, Tixier has at least a little bit of a gap. And once again, commentator's curse rears its ugly head as the driver from Singapore gives up a handy lead, touched the grass. That's very Vettel-esque. I remember at the Nürburgring years ago, just clipped a hair of it and sent him off.
Well, here's the thing, he catches it first time, but the car goes and snaps on him again. That's what gives him the spin. That's what's going to throw him out of the race battle for the win. And Tixier here, he'll be kicking himself over that one because he was driving absolutely flawlessly. But again, we said it, Joe. He was having to push the ultimate limits to build a gap. He wasn't building much. And then the moment that it came down, it was like a house of cards.
And this means Vascalampi is looking at win number 2. Snetterton offered his first one up, and he has got all of 2 laps to go. Sebastian down to third with probably too great of a hill to climb to catch Granberg on pace alone. He has to hope for mistakes from those ahead to get any higher than this third place for now.
Meanwhile here, you've got the battle for 5th position and 4th position. Ville Hallman, this has been a really underrated performance from Ville out there here today. He's just driven a calm race all on his own. He's made no mistakes. And this has been the sort of drive which you look at on paper and go, oh, 6th to 4th, that's pretty much there. Reminds me of about 2 or 3 years ago, Sergio Perez. Nothing exciting about it, no reason to really look at it, but has just been driving an absolutely wonderful race here today to get this result.
And we finally had the overtake from Olsen, and it wasn't into the Howard Cook. This was coming, I believe, down into Valvoline. Starts to set it up, though. Wow, very early. This carried on for a while. Undercuts him, slices back. He's on the outside coming to that left-hander. Little touch of the grass from the 4. That'll slow him up, and he's brave, keeping the grip around the outside, getting it done. That deserves a round of applause. That is a masterful move.
It takes ingenuity to come up with that one. Around the outside, going into that section of road is always the toughest thing to try and find. And this is sometimes what you see from great drivers. They are able to find moves in places where you wouldn't necessarily expect them to make it happen. And that was definitely the case here today from John Olsen. That was a great pass.
Fantastic stuff. Just set it up perfectly, but it's not done. Look at them continue to stick right with him as they come down into the first turn once again. And Macias has got to be thinking, I got to go at some point because he just saw the white flag. 1 lap left. Oh, no, that is not the time to go because he outbrakes himself into the first turn.
That was a panic there from Sergio Macias. He was thinking, Muchas Macias, that's mine. But nope, no chance. He loses it a little bit on entry, and now he's going to have to take about a good half a lap to give himself that final chance to go and make that move. It's going to be a tough final lap to get by, especially when you've got a car in front of you giving a little bit of tow there just in front. But I would say right now, it's about dialing it down. We've got about half a lap to go for our race leader.
And a 2.2 second gap. Vascalampi just has to stay calm and collected from here on out to finish this race and grab his second checkered flag of the season. There you see the 5 with just a few more corners to go. Martin Granberg, his time has got to be coming eventually as well, since he has recently hopped over here in the last 2 rounds. His 3rd race now in the Lotus 49 Grand Prix Legend Series, at least on the broadcasts themselves. And it looks like the transition from the 79 to the 49 has gone well for him, but he just needs that little push for more. For now, it is Teemu Vascalampi who gets win number 2. 4 different winners still out of 6 rounds is still quite the feat, and the Finn extends that finish gap in the Cup of Nations.
You have to say that a really important race. Top 3 still split by 5 seconds come the end. And what a drive as well it has been for Ville Hallman in 4th position. Holds off Ove Trengarade, who had his opportunities in the sun but didn't quite find them to manage. But you have to say, up and down the order, we've seen some great racing going on here today.
Better late than never for John Olsen. Made the pass and kept 7th ahead of Dana and Macias. Laust Olsen got himself up 2 spots to a top 10. Still a nice result for him as we're getting a few more battles sorting themselves out. Maudsley and Nolan Smith are just exiting the final turn, but I don't think Maudsley is going to give up the ghost on this one. And yeah, a little wheel spin will seal the deal as Smith just puts too much gas in it at the end. How about Bruno and Verbruggen for 21st as somebody celebrates after the finish line there, and this is for position 21 with the 17 and the 23 coming down to the final chicane.
See it there. It's going to be a really close affair here as they go through. Got to mind that curb on the outside between Verbruggen and Andres Bruno through the final section. Just run out of road. Little wiggle off the exit. That would have been a little bit of hope, but at the end of the day, it's going to be line astern as they were.
So no change of position, and I think same thing with Snelson and Conover. Last two on the lead lap, although it is close between them. That's going to take us to a quick break. We'll come back with the official results as well as driver interviews, so stick around. Welcome back to the Nürburgring. We just watched round 6 of the Lotus 49 Grand Prix Legends Series with Teemu Väskälahti getting his second win and helping bump himself higher in the order. Martin Granberg will finish P2, and Sebastian Tixier, who led a good chunk of the laps and looked like he had it sealed it up, made a spin and wound up only with third. So that first win is still forthcoming. Willy Hallman was just outside the podium in fourth. Ove Trangerade, another one who gave away a potential podium this week as he finishes fifth, and Jorge Nieva. And that F2 championship will gather up a bunch of points with this one in the P6. John Olsen was seventh, followed by Fabian Don in eighth, exactly where he started. Sergio Macias was ninth, and Laust Olsen finished P10.
In 11th position, up 3 spots, will be Robert Plumley. The World of Kinducci will have a bit of a smile with that, with Janne Lehmann in 12th position. Matthew Maudsley actually getting a pass on the final lap to get around Nolan Smith, with Matt Wright finishing in 15th position. Marco Antonio Lopez there will get 16th position, with Glenn Becker in 17th, ahead of Billy Bob Wright, a minute 12 down the order. He was in trouble from the word go. Rolly Wallbank then will take 19th position, a minute 22 down the order as Gary Ho. He manages that 20th place.
Kevin Verbruggen was 21st, with Andre Brunner up from 30th to 22nd. Nice job keeping that together. Herbert Prins, 23rd, followed by Eugenio Massa in 24th. Then it is Bruce Nelson, 25th. Colton Conover, 26th, as the last one on the lead lap. Grissinger was a DNF, it appears, as Andre Juteau was as well. Chris Murakami didn't see the full length of laps, but managed to at least bring it to the checkered flag along with Rasky Huff, and O'Malley was a DNF. Looks like we've got our Väskälahti winner with us. Teemu has taken his second win of the season. Teemu, congratulations. A little bit of luck, maybe. You managed to avoid the same pitfalls that Tixier had, but it seemed like towards the end of the race, he was just that little bit faster.
Yeah, I was honestly sad to see him spin. I was already settled for P2. I think our pace was very close each other, but he was just more consistent. I kept doing little mistakes, and he seemed to drive very mistakeless until that. So he would have won it easily if he didn't spin it.
Yeah, we were just as gutted, but even still happy to see you take your second win of the season. But I have to ask, it's not just this as the event going on today, but the iRacing Daytona 24. Have you been taking part in that with the team at all?
No, not really. I'm interested of endurance races, but never took part myself. This one, maybe someday.
All right. Well, definitely helped give you at least maybe slightly fewer cars out there to fight against. Next time, we're going to a track with a little bit of a shorter lap at Road Atlanta. Do you see yourself maybe making it 3 over there?
Well, we will see. There's quite many actually who can win. Yeah, so it's tough to say, but it's one of my favorite tracks. And usually I have good pace there no matter what car, so I hope it goes with this car. Also, never driven this car. We will see.
I think it's a fantastic fit for this car. Congratulations on the win. Anybody you want to thank?
That's Lotus 49 guys and you guys for broadcasting.
Well, thank you very much. That was Timo Vaskilampi, your winner from the pole as well, we might add. And up next, looks like 10th place finisher Laust Olsen has caught up with Jake.
Laust up 2 places today. That will always be a bit of a plus, but a very tough day in terms of how very close this field was and how aggressive the guys at the front were. Just talk us through your race and how you had to manage your way through.
Yeah, I had a pretty good start. I think I earned the 2 places during the start and the first corner. Had a nice fight with John through the first couple of corners, but had to let him go. Most of the race I had a good fight with Sergio, running behind him, difficult to overtake, but also a couple of mistakes on my part, getting some slowdown, so losing a couple of seconds unnecessary, so there's room for improvement for sure. And then I got unlucky with the back marker and losing some seconds there, and that threw me off my rhythm, so I lost further the next couple of laps and only started to catch up slowly again late in the race. So at times quite lonely, but also some nice fights trying to catch and overtake Sergio.
Let's talk about that back marker for a second, because it would have shocked you going into turn number 1 that you have to open the steering up in that manner of fact, expecting that car to effectively fly down your inside. Just how alert do you have to be in a machine like this when you know that you've got a car that maybe doesn't respond as quick as other machines on the service does, to go and make something happen, to give yourself that room if, say, some other driver out there makes a mistake?
Oh, he took me by surprise there. I didn't see him before he flew past me, so I was quite lucky we didn't crash together, because I didn't see him until he flew by, and I didn't have time to react at all. So that was quite lucky. But yeah, you have to be quite look ahead in this car, because everything happens so slow, and you have to be able to react in time. You cannot you have a long braking distance and so on. So you have to try to look ahead and be smart, because it can be quite difficult to make last moment reactions.
You're halfway through the season, Laust, with 6 rounds in. What have you taken from these opening 6 races and the understanding of this car, and how are you going to apply that to the final 6 rounds of the championship?
First of all, I've been quite consistent, I think, for the first races, getting some good results, some by luck, some by pace, and I'll try to keep that up. Pace-wise, I'm still quite far from the front, so I need to get better and see where I can improve. But consistency is, I think, my main goal to get a good championship position in the end.
Oh, hopefully we will see that from you. Before we let you go, last shout out sponsors or anyone you'd like to thank.
Oh, I'll want to thank you for you doing great broadcasts, and then the community. Lots of good races here, and always enjoy the races. So, yeah.
No worries at all. They're Lars Olsen, 10th place, but gaining 2 spots, which is definitely, Joe, no slouch whatsoever.
Well, especially in this crowd and the level of skill that you see here. And that's going to wrap us up tonight. So, of course, we want to give a few thank yous before we go as well, starting with the Majors Garage, our sponsor. Make sure and check out our promo code, a link in the description below, Majors GSRC, for 10% off. And, of course, the Lotus 49 community for bringing us back for another season of coverage. Also, a thank you to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast listed here on your screen. And additional thanks to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. Check out her Bandcamp for more great work. Thanks to the team today, Jake, Rob, and Dougie. You can find more info about GSRC at globalsimracingchannel.com or through our social media. Also, check out our merchandise store at gsrc.storenvy.com. There's a link in the description below for that as well. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel while you're down there so you don't miss a moment, because in a week's time, we're going to Road Atlanta, Sunday, January 29th at 8:30 a.m. Eastern. We have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out. Mark them down on your calendar, including, if you're not too tired from the iRacing 24 Hours of Daytona, check out the Camel Series going to Mid-Ohio. That'll be at noon Eastern. Until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.